Game, JT and the Don with your hosts, Jimmy Thompson and Donato Bucci. They're covering the most current issues in sports from the 305 to the 412 and all the way to the West Coast. You can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at JT and the Don or email them at jtandthedon@gmail.com. Now take it away, guys.
Give them a shot to do what?
Welcome to the next episode of JT and the Don, presented by Give Us a Shot Network. I am the Don, Donato Bucci, and remember to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and whatever platform you find all of your other favorite podcasts. And remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Give Us a Shot Network. Thank you to Nicole Thompson for the wonderful introduction, into our guy Mike Regina with the JT and the Don intro music. We have one half of the dynamic duo from Stuff About Sports, also presented by Give Us a Shot Network. He'll be on with us, but first, let me welcome in everyone's favorite JT, Jimmy Thompson. Nice hat, and how you feeling today?
Damn, this is a setup. You're actually complimenting me for wearing another team's hat. See, because we got guests on, now you want to act nice and like things don't bother you and civil. So I'm not falling for this shit.
Listen,
you either nervous that somebody's gonna see how petty you are firsthand, or you just didn't prepare for the show and you're trying to be nice. Which one is it?
Listen. First, it's not a Ravens hat.
I got you.
It's not a Bengals hat. It's not an Eagles hat.
I mean, I can pull it up. It's right here on the counter. I can go get that shit and change the show real quick.
I'm always nice to you, but I don't need to be nice on purpose in front of this guest because he's one of us, man. He's part of the family. So, you know, I don't need to be extra nice to you. I'm just being nice. It's a nice hat. Take the compliment, and can we start the show? Can't you just do that?
Man, I know it's set up when I see one, man. So
anyway,
yeah,
but before we start, again, like I said, one half of the dynamic duo of Stuff About Sports, Jerm. Welcome back, man. Great to have you. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a fun time every time we all get together. Thank you for having me on the show, and I can't wait to destroy JT today on his fair weather fan hats. Every week, switching hats, switching teams like the weather. It's crazy.
Wow. Okay, I see what type of show it's going to be. So let's start off with something that I know Don is just going to be gloating about. So, I mean, if you don't know, last week was probably one of the best weeks in boxing history as far as the fights that we saw. We saw Inoue, and then, of course, Bud Crawford. They were both dominant. There's plenty to discuss, especially with the Errol Spence and Crawford fight. This man got beat down. But let's start with this, man, because this fight was really close. You called it, Don, but you also said it was going to be a 50-50, so a lot of people thought it was going to be much closer than it actually was. Errol Spence got beat down like Martin facing Tommy the Hitman Hearns. What went wrong for Errol Spence? Because I got to hear this from you, because Bud Crawford is your guy.
Yeah. Well, Bud Crawford's speed, power, boxing IQ, his training, his jab, his power, his speed. I think I said power and speed already because I want to emphasize power and speed. Like, that's what went wrong. Like, Errol Spence, he's a really good fighter, but Bud Crawford's on a different level, and he showed it. And again, power and speed. If you watch that fight, it was like usually Errol Spence has both of those, but he was outclassed. And really, Bud Crawford able to work the jab, and Spence wasn't. Spence just didn't seem to have it. But I think the reason is Bud Crawford, different level. He just outclassed him. What can you say?
Just Bud being Bud.
Yeah, that should be his motto. I like that. We should get that. Get him like a Bud Light sponsor or something.
Jerm, before I go to you, I'm going to say I probably saw one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen in a boxing match in this fight. Like, Spence is getting his ass whooped, and I think this is when it was over. And you got Bud Crawford talking to Charlo, like in the stand, saying like, "Look, man, you next." Like, imagine how disrespectful and how good of a boxer you have to be beating a dude who people think that you're in a 50-50 fight. This is probably one of the top fights at least of the last 5 years, you beating this man down, and you look at the guy sitting ringside like, hey man, you next. I'm gonna do this to you. Like I don't even think I've seen Tyson ever do something like that. Like I got respect for Crawford, but it's at another level now. That's a bad man. Jerm, tell me what went wrong for Spence.
When Crawford came out with Eminem to Lose Yourself, it was over. I mean, you know how confident you have to be. Like M don't just come out for any old Tom, Dick, and Harry. He comes out for the real stuff. At that moment, I know Buddy was running into Jim Brown in his pants in the ring watching that happen. I mean, as soon as S heard Eminem's voice, it wasn't just curtains. It was drapes, it was shades, and it was vertical blinds. It was over. He beat him. I mean, it was bad. He beat him so bad. He beat him like Ike did Tina. I mean, he went straight after it. It was bad. I mean, and so I get that again, I'm a casual boxing fan, so I had to like research these guys. I mean, this was billed to be one of the better boxing matches in a long time, and he just beat the brakes off of him. It was bad. It was super bad. And I don't know what went wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was an issue with Spence's weight. Did he like move up in weight or move down or something about his weight that they said that he stayed off? Like that was like the big post-fight excuse.
Yeah, well, he wants to move up to 154. They fought that at 147, but he feels naturally he's more of a 154 guy. And you know, sometimes when you got to cut that much weight, you're dehydrated, you're not yourself, you don't have that energy. So
well, listen, Crawford was on Spence like Whitney was on crack. I mean, he got him that bad. It was bad. It was real bad.
I don't know about these references. I don't know about these references tonight, man. I can't approve of those. No.
Hey, look, man. This is what you're gonna get. I agree with you guys. It was all those things. Like as soon as he came out with Eminem, I know the guys were like, "Oh man, it's over." Like it was just too hype. Like just the pressure you put on yourself to come out with Eminem, like you said, like you can't lose that fight, man. Like Eminem is coming out and walking you to the ring. That's one of the GOATs. But Don, like you bring up all the right points. And I will say this, I feel like main thing that went wrong for Spence was he just didn't have an answer with Crawford catching up to his timing. Like I feel like anytime that Spence was throwing a combination, Crawford got him right between clean shots, man. And it's just like he didn't adjust. And I feel like his trainers failed him before the fight. And they failed him during the fight. Like, you got to be able to adjust to that. Like, hey, if he's messing up your combinations and tagging you perfectly between those, like, y'all got to have a game plan to adjust. And I feel like that's what happens with a guy like Spence when you're used to fighting one way and dominating guys that can't adjust to what you do well. And you fight a guy like Bud, it's not going to go well. And that's what I didn't expect to happen. And he just tore him apart, man. I just feel like he just had no answer for, you know, breaking up in the timing between the combinations that he was throwing. And that's what ultimately got his face looking like Martin. Like, it was just ridiculous. So we'll talk about this in a minute, but Errol Spence got some decisions to make. But yeah, the first immediate thing.
Well, before we move on, Jerm, you bring up the Eminem thing. I'm usually not a fan of artists coming out with the boxers. I just think you can't hear them that well. Like, just come out to the set music, play your music, and have the attention be on you as the boxer, because that's your one moment to really shine. Because if you get beat in the ring, at least you had that good ring walk. But I admit that was great. As soon as I saw Eminem too, I was like, you know what? It changes my opinion if you get the right guy to come down with you. And then two, I like what Derek wrote here. Thanks for listening, putting that comment back up. Errol looked out of it, walking into the building. JT and I kind of were texting about this.
You text me ASAP. Be real. He texted me, he goes, is he high? I was like, I think he might be, man.
Yeah, like he just didn't look himself. I mean, we were joking about that comment, but in a sense, we weren't. We were like, something's up with him. Yeah, something's up with him. So good comment there by Derek. Good observation as well.
And also, too, I want to add on to what we were talking about as far as like what went wrong. I feel like me personally, I always fall for this trap, and I think people going into boxing matches as fans fall for this trap sometimes. I used to do it with Floyd Mayweather all the time. It's like, oh, this guy, he's going to be fighting, is aggressive. He has power. I'm like, yeah, like Floyd's not really that type of fighter. There's no way he's going to be able to get into a brawl. and then they don't get into a brawl. And like, this is exactly what happens. I remember like when he fought, was it Gotti? And I was like, oh man, like he's got too much power. He's aggressive. He can take punches. Floyd's just not that strong. And it was over. And this is kind of like those same scenarios where you're like, these great technicians, Bud's got more power, obviously, but it's like we always think these brawlers are going to come in and be Mike Tyson. Like, it just destroy everybody, and it just never happens. So, yeah, styles make fights, like you say. But immediate thing on everybody's mind is there's a rematch clause in this. But after how bad this first fight went, do you think there will be a round 2 with this?
Jerm, I'll go first if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I don't think there is going to be a rematch. I think that night in the moment when he was interviewed, meaning Spence, he wanted it, but I guarantee you he woke up the next morning and the way he felt in rewatching that fight, if he even wanted to watch it and looking in the mirror, he was like, nah, I'm good right now. Like, to me, Spence wants to move up to 154. It's in the contract. The rematch clause that's in the contract, I should say, says the winner gets to pick the weight. If I'm Bud Crawford and I'm not ready to move up to 154, I'm staying at 147. So if you want the rematch, no problem. Exercise that rematch clause. We're going to fight at 147. I'm going to make this dough, and then I'm going to go on, because the two big fights at 147 for Bud now are Virgil Ortiz Jr., and Jaron Ennis. Boots Ennis, he's the up-and-coming thing. I'm telling you, at 147, when Crawford gets to that age where he can't fight the way he is now, Boots Ennis is the next guy. So if Crawford...
Do you think, though, that because Crawford dominated him so badly that he might be arrogant enough to be like, you know what, yeah, I'll move up to 154 and just beat your ass there?
But I don't think that's what I'm saying. I think for Bud right now, it doesn't make sense, because once you go to 154, JT, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he can go back to 147. Like, think about Manny Pacquiao. He went through like 8 different divisions. It's tough as you get older to go back to put your body through that. So that's why I don't think Bud's ready for 154 when he can make some good money with those 2 fights. And those are like legit. Those are really legit fights. Plus Spence, I don't know if he exercised the rematch clause anyway, because did you see the beating he took? Like, he's not ready for that. He gets in the ring again, it's going to be another.
Did Spence see the beating he took? Because I don't know if he's looked at the pictures of himself online, man. It was bad.
Yeah. Sorry, Spence. Like, he's going to have a couple tune-up fights before he fights anyone good again. That's what I would do for him, because if they put him back in right away with Crawford, it's almost boxing malpractice. It's almost boxing malpractice. Like, he's not ready for that again, especially if Crawford's going to keep it at 147. So I don't think there's going to be a rematch. Not right now. Maybe down the line in a year or two, but not right now.
Jerm, we know you're not buying the fight regardless, but is there a rematch?
Nah, Fire Stick, baby. Yeah, I mean, VPN, baby. So listen, he did activate his rematch clause. He wants to fight him before the end of the year, which would put it at December, I would assume. He wants to fight him again, of course. And of course he does. He got his ass kicked. Like, I mean, that's what happens. You ever been in grade school and you fought some kid and he beat you
up?
Not like that.
I never got beat up like that.
Code of the streets, y'all. Y'all know better than this. Hey, I want my lick back. You ain't going to put me out like that.
Germ, I guarantee you in your life, you have never had your ass whooped. Like
I've never, never. But I'm saying,
not even to scale. Like, you have never got beat up like that before.
No, I've lost one fight in my life, and that was it. But let me tell you, you know how it works. He wants his lick back, and he wants it back as soon as possible. And everybody, like his pride. He ain't gonna go out like that, because he has to get the rematch. And even if he doesn't win, he has to fight better than he did, because then that affects his purses in the future. That's just how boxing works, right? He has to get the rematch, and he has to look more respectable, because if he leaves it the way it is now, he is done as a money draw for boxing. Boxing can't afford it, and he can't afford it. Crawford, he already says he wants to fight Charlo. I want to see him fight Alvarez. So, but he's going to have to fight. I believe he activated it in the ring still. That might have just been
don't-
CTE talking.
I don't know,
but-
Jerm. I looked it up. I don't see him officially. I mean, you could say that in the ring, but there needs to be.
But he did it at the
paperwork
press
too.
conference too with his trainer.
He might still be having, residual effects from the fight, but he might really didn't mean that.
He says he wants a rematch. He didn't exercise it yet. If not, it'd be all over the news. I mean, you bring up a good point, though. He definitely said he wants the rematch. All I'm saying is that was in the heat of the moment.
He's like you just got your ass.
I'm good.
You got your ass beat worldwide. And the dude and the guy that was interviewing him asked him the right questions. I was like, "You want to get there again?" What are you supposed to be like? Hell no, I don't want to get there again. Absolutely. What do you expect him to say? He got to say like, "Yeah, I want to run it back." He didn't sound too convincing when I saw him. He's like, "Yeah, I want to get back in there." Like, damn well.
But he also said it. He also said it in the press conference outside of the ring. Like he said it twice. So I think in his head, he knows he has to fight again. He has to fight him in a rematch because he went out looking so bad. Like you can't. It's not really about getting his lick back against Crawford. It's literally about protecting his future earnings in boxing. He cannot let this be his last impression with boxing fans and the people who are in charge of the money.
Man, he can come back and win 3 straight fights. I'm gonna remember this shit.
Because but that's why he needs to fight. That's why he needs to fight.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Crawford. Yeah.
One, I paid $90 for this fight, and I feel like if they didn't have such a decent relationship, the shit could have been over in 3 rounds. I agree with Don. Like, there's not gonna be a rematch because this rematch has no value. Just for what I said, nobody is paying $90 to watch this again, and Bud messed it up. Like, he beat him so bad, nobody wants to watch this fight. They're already talking about him fighting Charlo, Shakur Stevenson. I think even Tank Davis, I don't know how it would work with the weight, but even he's like, hey, I want a shot at Bud. Like, that rematch with Spence, I know they tried to build this trilogy. That ship has sailed past. It is Titanic. It is sank. It is over. Nobody is paying to watch that. Like, I'm not even going to Duffy's or Twin Peaks to pay cover to watch this for $20. I'm not. Hey, send me your Fire Stick link. I'll watch it there. Maybe. Like, I'm not watching it. So it's dead. And I think he knows that too. And I wish that I would have saw this before Don and I made our predictions. I don't know if you saw, they did like the pre-fight photos, where they square off. And Spence is thanking Bud for this opportunity, basically to do this fight, making it happen and make money. I'm like, oh man, he's acting like, oh, this is like the last contract. Like, he was just happy to be there and get the money. And I don't see it happening again. Like, there's no value in this. So I'm not paying for it. Jerm's definitely not paying for it. Don, you might pay for it because I know you just can't help yourself, or you'll end up at Dave & Buster's to watch him get his ass beat again in a year from now when they give him the permission to fight this man again. Like, I don't see that happening. But
I want Dwayne Schultz. Thanks for the comment. Thanks for watching. He says round 2 is weight up. Bud wants to move up anyways. I don't know if he wants to. Like I said, if I was him, I would not move up just yet because you can still make good money at 147 with the Ortiz and then Ennis, and then go up to 154. Beverly Thompson says Jimmy never lost a fight as a kid.
See, this is why you can't give family members access to comment. This is a troll. I see you. We'll talk about this. I'll text you later. I'd appreciate that. But serious note though, because this is conversation that people are having. Like, there are serious concerns for Errol Spence. Should he consider retirement?
No. I mean, he's still a really good fighter. 2 to 3 years left in his prime.
You sure about that?
Move up.
You sure about that?
Listen, it's Bud Crawford. We're going to get to the next question, but it's Bud Crawford. There's a reason why I say it's Bud Crawford. Like, move up in weight, get 1 or 2 easy fights under your belt, and then go get paid. Get one of the bigger fighters. You can move up to 154 and fight Charlo, and there's some other guys in there too. And I think Castano is another guy. Like, go in there. It's just, people feel this is what I don't like about boxing, other than the
corruption.
Not the refs, but the judges. Yes, the judges. It's the only sport we don't know the score until the very, very end. Like, even in gymnastics, figure skating, where it's point based with judges, what the last skater or what the last gymnast needs to do to win. You don't know that in boxing going into the last round. It's the only sport. But other than that, The one thing I don't like is
I think we knew in this fight what the score was.
Yes. If you
A lot
we
little.
needed him to give us a recap round by round. Like we knew who won the rounds.
So what I don't like in boxing though is you get one loss and it's like your career's over. Everything's done. Your legacy is tarnished. Like, why? UFC fighters end up with 8 losses and they're known as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. Like, we need to stop with the Floyd Mayweather, Rocky Marciano comparisons that everyone needs to go 49, 50 and 0. That's the only way you can be great and have a legacy. Manny Pacquiao lost plenty of fights. He's still known as one of the best of all time. So it's okay that Errol Spence lost. Don't retire. You're 33. Do a couple more years, make that money, set yourself up right, and then get into commentating. So
ain't nobody listen to what you saying, man. He better wrap it up and go fight one of the Paul brothers. That's the only way he gonna make money.
Bring me on as his manager. I'm saving his career tonight.
Man, hey man, should this man throw his shoes over the power lines, man?
You gotta hang up the gloves. It's hang up the gloves. Get it right.
No,
he got beat for real. He gotta throw the shoes over the power line. This ain't hanging up gloves. Like he gotta throw those so everybody in the neighborhood know he done.
Nah, he has 1 loss, right? Like, I mean, what are we doing? Tyson has 6 losses. Does that mean Tyson isn't any? Yeah, and it was still a great fighter. He's still a good fighter. Like it's like you said, you know, he's going to bounce back whether he does get the rematch or not, which I think he will. But he's going to go on and win other fights. Now, if he loses a fight against somebody else and gets his ass kicked the way he did, then we could talk about retiring. But he has 1 loss, right? Like, so what are we talking about here? No, just hopefully get your rematch and get your respect back. But if not, you move on to the next fight. There's always the next fight, and just move on. But to talk about, and JT's not the only diabolical hater out there talking about retirement. Heard Stephen A. Smith, old weak push-up having ass, on First Take talking about retirement. Like it's ridiculous. Like he lost a fight. He'll be fine.
He lost the fight. All right, so I'm gonna break this into 2 parts. The serious part is I do think he should consider it because there's also the rumors out there that you can tell he has neurological damage from the car accidents. And Don, you talked about that as being a reason why he would lose this fight. And people are saying, like, that's why he looked the way he looked. That's why he's talking the way he's talking, even before the fight. And they're like, of course, we've talked about this privately, like his fighting has kind of changed since the car accident. Now, he's still been good, but is he, at this level where, you can fight a guy like Bud Crawford? Like, I don't know. Is it the car accident and all the injuries and stuff like that, or is it just Bud Crawford's that much better than him? So we don't know. And here's the other thing. We know. Here's the other thing.
Well, we know. Yeah, the fight told you that.
Here's the other thing. I do think he should consider retirement because you know what this reminds me of? Ronda Rousey. Like, so good. And then she got her ass kicked so bad one time. It was just never the same. And I think sometimes when you get a special ass whipping like that and it's so public, and like, this is never going to go away. Like, he's going to be a meme forever. Like, we're going to be seeing this forever. I think that level of shell shock, I don't know too many people on the planet that can come back from that. And
is this his first fight since the accident?
No.
All right, then. So why are you bringing up the accident?
But you got to think this guy had never been even knocked down in a fight before. Like, I
got you.
But it's one thing to be dominant and then go into a situation like this where it's like, people thought they were dead even. Like, this was an equal purse fight. Like, they got paid the same amount of money. And like, that's why I say it reminds me of Ronda Rousey. Like, she was so dominant and then she just got destroyed brutally. And she came back and she just kept getting destroyed and it was over. And she ended up being an actress. And I think that's where I worry about for Spence is he could go down that same road. And in boxing, I think it's more dangerous for him because it's not like he's going to be like fighting scrubs. Like, they're going to want him to put his name to bigger fights. So I think Crawford kind of gave people the blueprint on how to beat this guy. And I don't know if I want to be out there with that kind of information on me. So I think he should hang him up. Like Troy says, thank you, Troy, for watching. Got to hang him up like the gray Timberlands. And if you know about the gray Timberlands, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just got to hang them up, man.
I mean, we can go on to the next question, but Ronda Rousey comparison, I think it's a little off because she had one move. Once they figured it out, it was
Spence really has one style though.
But all I'm saying is get back in the ring, take 2 easy fights, make money, then retire.
bro.
This
It's
can't
like
be your
it's like you
last
watch
fight.
you watch the Creed movies, right? Creed 2.
It's
He
a
got
movie.
he got beat so bad
It's
by
a
Drago the
movie.
first time. Think about all the shit that he had to
It's
go
a
through before he would
movie.
even consider getting back in the ring. He had to have a child. He went into hiding. His wife had to talk to him. His mom had to convince him. Like Rocky had to come back and make amends with him. Like all this stuff had to happen for this man just to even say, like, you know what? I have a chance to get back in this ring. Like, I think that's where Spence is gonna be, man. Like, this is more like Ronda Rousey than you want to admit.
This is the reason why your Ronda Rousey comparison is off, is because she got the opportunity to prove herself. It just didn't go the way she wanted it to, and now you're trying to rob that from Spence. Again, it's one fight.
I'm trying to save his life.
We don't. Okay, first off, this is human cockfighting we're talking about, so I don't want to hear about accidents. They get hit in the head. These UFC guys, these boxing guys. Let's get out of the morality business when it comes to his future and safety. He's getting hit in the head for a living.
You going to hit with Drago? If he dies, he dies now.
Well, but your manager in your corner, it is their job. Safety is their job as well for the fighter. They're supposed to save the fighter from themselves.
I got you.
Troy says this may be near the end for Spence. Unfortunately, a beating like that makes one think about their future. Exactly, I agree with this guy 100%.
Are you going out like that? Let me ask you, Troy.
Yeah, you ain't got a choice.
Shout out to Pitbull Boxing for his comment earlier. Shout out to Troy. Let me ask you, Don, as a man, if that
don't ask Don about the fight.
Are you?
Hey, I'm telling you right now, if Don got beat up like that, he ain't going back in the ring.
Are you going out like that?
Every dollar I have, he ain't going back in there.
I would not. You can't go out. You can't go out like that. If
nobody going out like that.
This is the thing, Jerm. If I still truly believed in myself, I'd get back in the ring. Now
that's because you're real. Thank you.
If I thought for sure that now he did have some like detached retinas, right? Now, if that's an issue and the eyesight's an issue, and the doctor says, "Listen, you're taking a chance," then maybe I don't get back in there.
Did you not see his face? Eyesight is definitely going to be an issue.
But if it's just on what Jerm is saying, based on the beating alone and kind of the humility, you got to get back in there. That's your life. Like this is
obviously health. Obviously, other than health.
It's like JT always comes back after I beat him down on the show every week.
Yeah,
he comes back for more, right? Like,
yo, JT, you are Spence. You are Spence. That's crazy.
Nah, Crawford. He know not to mess with me, man. They ain't going down like that. That's why I told him, man. If this was Don, he ain't get back in there.
I'm getting back in.
Potential fights for Spence are Castano, Mendoza. I'm not going to pronounce that man's name. Maybe he could do it, but it might go horribly wrong. The inactivity for PBC fighters is costing the promotion long term.
And that almost got the inactivity almost got Bud Crawford too.
Steve Waldman, what up, Bud?
All right, so y'all got faith that Spence gonna come back like Rudy. I say he's done like Rousey. We'll see what happens.
We didn't say he come back, but he's gonna at least.
Y'all making it seem like everybody gonna be chanting his name in the stands, and he gonna find that strength and come back. Like, it's over. It's over, man. You gonna cash out, man. It is over.
Yeah, Troy says he's gonna cash out. He is gonna cash out. He has to.
All right. So last part of this, and then we can move on. I know where Don's going to go with this, and we've been battling about this, I feel, for like 2 years. Better pound for pound fighter, Inoue or Bud Crawford?
It's no doubt. It's Crawford. One, did you watch the fight Saturday night? All right, this guy.
Yeah, I know. My bank account reminded me I watched it. Yes,
Spence. Yeah, it was a drop in the bucket for your bank account.
Bro, where do you get this notion that I have all this money to spend? I don't.
We have a guest on tonight. We have a guest.
I'm broke. I'm broke just like everybody else.
That's why you got a new hat every episode.
I've had this hat. I've had this hat for years.
So
you can't see the dust on it.
So not only the fight Saturday night, but the competition he's faced compared to Inoue is much better. Ricky Burns, Gamboa, Ray Beltran, Victor Postal, John Molina Jr., Jeff Horn, who beat Manny, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, and Sean Porter. Inoue, you've got Fulton, you've got an older Nonito Donaire twice, and Emmanuel Rodriguez. Open, shut case. It's Bud Crawford. Inoue can be two. That's fine. Let's go to the next segment if that's all right with you fellas.
Look, I hate to agree with
Crawford
you.
has more wins. That's all I looked at. I don't know
That's
all I care about.
It's like he ain't getting up to he ain't not getting up early to study Inoue to make an educated decision on this.
At a higher weight class. No, that's some good
higher weight class.
At a higher weight class. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you know how much I love Inoue. I've been ringing the bell for him for a while now, but I just think after what I saw last weekend, I gotta say it's Bud Crawford, man, because as freakishly gifted as Inouye is, and I'm saying like he hurts people. I've never seen somebody be hurt like this, man. Like I was like Spence was getting hit so hard, I was seeing the blood flakes come off him, man. Like I've never seen that before, like in years. Like I how could I not say Bud Crawford is not pound for pound number one after that, man? So it's closer than people want to admit because Inouye is special too. Like he's done some great things too, like moving up that many times in weight classes and dominating. So I'm not gonna just write him off. It's close, but prison of the moment, I'm with Bud.
All right, I like it. All right, you've come over to my side on it. All right, listen, 30 minutes of boxing to open the show. I love it. That's always been my dream with this podcast.
Don't ever say I don't do shit for you.
I know. I appreciate that. For you. I'll let you have your little moment. Are you happy now? I'm ecstatic. So let's go on to the real JT, Jonathan Taylor. Sources reported this past weekend that Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor requested a trade in a private meeting he had Saturday night with team owner Jim Irsay. So, JT, let me go to the fake JT first here. Will they trade Jonathan Taylor?
No, because you know what the NFL hates more than running backs? Anybody want to take a guess?
Demands?
Player happiness. They would rather underutilize him as a player than trade him and get value. Like that's just how the NFL works. Like it could be a rocky marriage and they're like, you know what? We just going to stay here. We're going to stay here, look at each other all stupid. And if it never works, I don't care. I'll do anything to suppress your happiness. And that's how NFL owners are. So no, he's not going to get traded. Like they're just so arrogant. And I would almost offer this because nobody asked for Jim Irsay's comments on this. Like this was so unprovoked. But like if Jonathan Taylor is so replaceable, because that's basically the tone of the messaging that he was giving. If he's so replaceable, trade him and go draft another one and show me you can get another JT right away. Like I don't think it's going to be that easy, but nah, they're not going to trade him, man. How many times do players ask for trades that are not quarterbacks and this shit does not happen?
Jerm, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Irsay already said he's not trading him, so there's no reason for me to believe that Irsay is going to go back on his word. There's no leverage play because Irsay has all the leverage, so Jonathan Taylor can sit out if he wants and pull a Le'Veon Bell. It's not going to work for him. And on Jonathan Taylor, if I want to shoot him some bail, I get it, man. You have a rookie quarterback who has Gardner Minshew and Sam Ehlinger behind him. They're going to run him into the ground, and he knows it. So I get that he wants to get his money. But unfortunately for the running backs, and it's not just him, it's all of them these days, teams are looking at the data, advanced analytics. I know it's the words we don't like to hear, but running backs don't influence teams all that much anymore, right? You can get a running back in the 5th or 6th round and just run him for the 4 years of the rookie contract and then draft another one. The 4-year rookie contracts are what's hurting most players, especially the running backs now. So I get both sides, but Jonathan Taylor, you have a contract, boss. You know, play it out. I believe you only got 1 year left on it too. So just play. And if you don't like the way the Colts are handling business, then leave. That's just the way it is.
He's trying to do. I would leave.
No, he's trying to leave.
But look, honestly, I agree with you. But look how they did him last year. Damn near broken ankle, and they tried to make him go back out there and play so many times. Like, why would you want to go through that again?
Because you signed a contract and it's your job. And if you don't like your job, then quit. But don't demand a trade and try to nuke and derail your team's season. If you're that unhappy, you requested your trade. The team's not. If Josh
Allen requested a trade, was like, I want to come to the Buffalo Bills. All of a sudden, you be pro trade request now.
Not me. Yeah,
he would. If Josh Allen was with the Raiders, he's like, you know what? Trade me to the Bills. You'd be like, you know what? You know, players should be able to request a trade wherever they want.
It's a different comparison because what have I always said on all the shows that we've been on? I don't respect skill players. You don't pay them. They're easily replaceable.
You rather pay Jalen Ramsey, and you see how that gets you.
I mean, I'd rather pay Trayvon Diggs. I'd rather pay any shutdown corner. I mean, if they're worth their metal, the elite running back. Give me who's the best running back to win a Super Bowl in the last 20 years?
Oh, God, we're going through this again. That's such a flawed argument over the 10 years.
25 years ago was Terrell Davis, pretty much.
And he was only good in the playoffs because when you look at his career numbers, he never ranked higher than he ranked in the top 50s in all the running back categories all time. He wasn't a good running back when you compare them or in the status that he's talked about, right? He had great, like his playoff runs are what made him a Hall of Famer, but his regular seasons, he was average at best. And that's being nice about it.
Well, I wouldn't say that. That one year he had 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Cam Newton has one MVP in 15 years of playing,
Josh
and then
Allen has
14 years of 7 and 9. Is Cam Newton an MVP, or is that an outlier? That's called an outlier, Don.
I'm just saying.
Don't talk to me about 1 year. You played 10 years in the league, and you tell me, yeah, he had that one good year. Is that an outlier, or is that a fluke?
But that's the thing. He didn't play 10 years, and he had to have had great regular seasons to make the Hall of Fame. You don't make the Hall of Fame on playoffs alone, Germ. I'm sorry.
When you win a Super Bowl, when you have Super Bowls.
We're getting away from
man. Like you act like Terrell Davis was Robert Ory. Like he just showed up and he just showed up in the moment, get a few rushing yards, score a few touchdowns. You make it sound like he just was at the goal line, waiting to dive over. Like you need to go back and watch how dominant Terrell Davis was, man. For them to let him in,
you're taking away from my point.
I agree with your point, though. I agree with your point.
Yes. Let's use Terrell Davis then. Fine. How long ago was that? That's
25 years ago. Yeah,
all right, then.
I agree. I made that point to JT. He wants to fight us on this, but
70% of those Super Bowls of the past 10 years, they had two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
That's the whole point.
It's moot, though. If those teams don't have those quarterbacks, like most teams would not be good at all. Like you making it seem like, because they had those quarterbacks, they don't need a running back. Like those teams, like Tom Brady is the ultimate eraser. Like most teams are not getting a Tom Brady or a Pat Mahomes. So you need talent on the team. I don't want to go on this road again. I just want your answer on JT because this show gonna be forever. Like y'all are wrong about that. Go ahead.
I want to put up Mike Regina, our guy. Panthers had the best running back in football and won no more than 5 games for 4 straight years. Doesn't make sense.
Who's the best running back in football they have?
Christian McCaffrey. Thank you. Hey, Michael Regina. Thank you. So Christian McCaffrey is the best example. What is he doing for the Niners? Is he elevating them at all? No, not really.
I mentioned that to JT. Nope. He didn't get them to the Super Bowl. When Brock Purdy went down, that's when you're supposed to step up. Where are you at?
They had the 4-string quarterback.
It doesn't matter. You want to always make an excuse for everyone else. It was Tom Brady, it was this and that. Just admit it.
You know what? I hope Kenny Pickett takes you guys to a Super Bowl because because a quarterback is just in every instance so much more valuable than any other player on the field. Like y'all making it. This is why people can't get money because you're like, well, we have to give it to the quarterback first. Just give it to the dudes that don't suck that make you win games. Like Kenny Pickett ain't making you win games. Like he's not. Like don't overpay bums like Daniel Jones that throw 15 touchdowns, averaging 188 yards passing for a season. And be like, you know what? Hey, we got to give that guy $40 million guarantee. Get out of here with that shit, man. Don, answer the question though about JT. Get to that.
My answer, I agree with Jerm that no, because Irsay already said it's off the table. Not now, not in October. And like, why trade him though? Yeah. He is a great piece. I'm not going to lie.
You need him.
No, they don't need him. But he's a great.
They don't need him
to relieve. Not right now because they're not going anywhere. They got a rookie quarterback.
Bro, you said this was a Super Bowl team just 2 years ago. You said this was a Super Bowl team. So what's changed?
You act like what has changed? The coach, the quarterback. I mean, go down the line. Let me answer. You wanted me to answer the question. I'm answering it, and you keep interjecting. He's a great piece to relieve the pressure from AR early on, right? Listen, he is the top back, or at least top 2, top 3, but you're never going to get enough value that you think, JT, because he's on the last year of a deal. So why would a team take him on knowing now they've either got to tag him or pay him? If they tag him, he may not play. Like, Colts can just realistically tag him for the next 2 years. So that means they have him for 3 years. Even if they can't work out a long-term deal, no big deal. You keep him. Don't trade him. What are you going to get? 5th round pick? All right. So JT, since you want to keep running your mouth and answering questions for us, what's the best landing spot for Jonathan Taylor?
Oh, it's easy. It's the Chiefs. Like this has been the thing that they've been missing since Kareem Hunt was there, like a dominant running back.
Oh, wait, Jerm. But they just won the Super Bowl, right?
Because they have Mahomes.
So do they need a dominant?
They have Mahomes.
Exactly. They paid
Mahomes. They haven't had any running back though. Like they got lucky, man.
Why?
Here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you why the Chiefs should get him because they had an opportunity to draft this dude.
Win. They listen to JT. This is why they can't win.
Dude, and they made a mistake and picked the wrong running back, and they probably would have won a Super Bowl every year if they would have had Jonathan Taylor. But I think the Chiefs is the obvious team that should go after him just because he just makes them that much more harder to stop. I mean, you got Kelsey and Mahomes. Now you got JT with that improved offensive line from 2 years ago. They've been beefing up. If I was the league, I don't want him to go there. But for fantasy and for just the best spot for him, absolutely. Like, send me to KC.
Mike Regina says, I agree with Jimmy. QBs are taking a disproportional share of the cap. This is hurting the RBs. Mike, we'll have a talk later. I'll call you after the show again. Even if JT is right, we never agree with him. We never agree with him.
Whatever. That's all.
Jerm.
They do.
Jerm. Best landing spot for the real JT.
Buffalo Bills, man. It's the one thing.
Why are you even asking this dumbass question?
I don't know. You didn't have any
I'm being honest,
stuff on tonight, so
I'm being real though. So you think about somebody of Jonathan Taylor. Where do you want me to send him? The Seahawks, like a team that's not going to win anything,
that has
like
3 running backs,
right? Like a team that is close. Do the Bengals need a running back? No, they have Joe Mixon.
Yeah, they do. There's about to be in jail soon.
He's not going to jail. I mean, think about the contenders, right? Like, okay, yeah, the Chiefs, but the Chiefs don't have the money. The Bills can create money. They can trade assets, right? The Chiefs, that's been the Chiefs' problem forever, is that they just don't have enough money. They're such a well-built team that they don't really have room. That's why they're signing guys like Shady McCoy and Melvin Gordon and who's the other, trading for Kadarius Toney. Like, they're making these little dink and dunk tinkering moves instead of splash moves because they can't. The Bills could do it. So, and it's because Josh Allen has a cap-friendly contract. Most of their big players do. So the Bills that's been the one thing, a high-end running back or at least a reliable running back is something that the Bills have been missing. And his running style absolutely fits not even just the weather in Buffalo, but Buffalo's offensive.
But why would he go to Buffalo? He's going to be in the same situation he would be in Indy, a quarterback that's running and mobile, taking up his rushing yards.
Don, who's better, Indianapolis or Buffalo as a football team?
Who's closer to contention? Super Bowl in Buffalo?
This is a tough one.
Who's closer to contention?
And I thought it was supposed to be James Cook season. You've been on this warpath like, oh, James Cook, he's such a beast. He's about to be the MVP. Now you want Jonathan Taylor?
He's a second year because I'm objective. This is what makes me a better fan.
The question is best landing spot for Jonathan Taylor. We're not talking just the team side. Jerm's answering for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. Or Eagles, right?
What's the best landing spot for Jerm? Jerm, where you want him to go? You want him to go to Buffalo?
Eagles, fine. Eagles match the same criteria for the Bills. The Eagles, they lost Miles Sanders. They could absolutely use Jonathan Taylor. Are you happy now? I picked another team besides Buffalo.
Nah, I know Buffalo going to come up again at some point during the show.
Listen, no offense. Love both of you guys. You guys are both wrong. If we're thinking Jonathan Taylor and we're in his shoes, he obviously doesn't care about winning. He wants the bag. He wants the money. So, Chicago Bears, that's the spot. They have $27 million alone still available in cap space just this year. And then they have future cap space. So, he can get paid. That's what this is all about, right? Running backs being undervalued. You want to get to a spot that's going to value you and pay you. They'll value you there because he's going to, again, he'll relieve pressure off a young quarterback, Justin Fields. Guess what? Fields doesn't have to run as much. That means he gets to stick around longer because he won't be hurt. So, and the Bears might be willing to pay. Of all the teams I looked at, this might be the one team that one can afford it, has the capital, and is actually going to appreciate Jonathan Taylor. So if I'm him, head to the Windy City. You've played in Wisconsin. You've played in worse weather than Chicago. You're all good. Go get your money with the Bears.
All right. So Bears, Bills, and Chiefs. We got it. All right, JT, good luck to you. We hope you land on your feet somewhere. We hope you get the bag. Running backs matter. So let's talk about U.S. women's national soccer team. It's tough, man. They barely survived a 0-0 tie against Portugal to advance to the knockout stage. So, of course, everyone is wondering, is our women's soccer team in trouble?
Well, first, this is a dream show for me. Not only do we have Jerm on as our guest, but we get to talk 30 minutes of boxing.
I'll tell you that right now.
30 minutes of boxing to start, and now we throw soccer in too. I love it. Listen, yes, I hate to admit it, but yes, we're in trouble. But we knew going in that there was going to be parity, right? This was, going to be the most competitive World Cup to date. So we knew that already going in. So that was one factor against us to try to three-peat. And on top of that, when you look in terms of parity in the high quality of competition now, Germany and Canada, gone. Germany's ranked number 2 in the world. They're gone. They didn't even make the knockout phase. They got beat out in the group stage. And then really the issue for the U.S. team has been the lack of finishing in the final third. You go back, they have 4 goals in 3 group stage games. In 2019, 3 games in the group stage, they had 18 goals. Granted, 13 of them against Thailand in 1 game. But still, like, you need to find the back of the net in these knockout stages to win. If not, you're going to find yourself in a shootout, penalty shootout, and that's where the underdogs can win.
Jerm, they in trouble?
No, man. They've been the most dominant team overall in all sports for years. I mean, so other teams got better around them. So what? Hey, in the words of the immortal Vin Diesel, a.k.a. Dominic Toretto, it don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, okay? You won. They're in the knockout round. I mean, even if whatever. What are we talking about here? Listen, I get there's people online, the losers online. They're too busy being political activists to focus on soccer. No, they're just teams are better now. Like the people at some point, is it not good enough that we've been the most dominant women's sports team, actually any sports team in any sport for the last, decade and a half? Like, so what? Like, so great. Jamaica or whatever that other team was had a magical Cinderella run. People get better around you eventually. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, man. Like they're still in it. Now, if they get knocked out, then we can talk, but define trouble for me. Like they're still in it. So there's a chance for them to win. They're not in danger of doing anything right now. So let's give them some time. Because if they go and dominate the rest of the tournament, nobody's going to talk about it. So let's just wait and see.
They are talking about it, though. And I actually thought you were going to say something about family, but I should have seen that coming with Vin Diesel. But I got to disagree with you. I agree with Don because, shoot, I got back from the soccer game last night, and I was watching, was it the Portugal game last night? And you're right. They got to find a way to find the back of the net. And I think it's going to be difficult because that's the way this team was put together. Like, the coaching philosophy is not about scoring. We didn't really build this team around scoring. Like, it's more of defense, and that's the style they want to play. And I feel like this is the wrong tournament pool for a team like that to be successful. And that's why this feels dangerous, because it's not like a situation like you remember in the last World Cup where it's like, okay, cool, like we could be having a slump, but we could really turn up and score goals if we need to. I don't think they can. It's because that's the way they're put together. So you already said it. This is a crazy tournament with parity. Like, my team that I picked to go against them, I think, is already out. So
yeah, both.
That just tells you how close these teams are, man. Like, and we said this when we looked at the bracket. Like, damn, it's hard to pick who is actually going to be a favorite and even who's going to be the best player in this tournament because there's so many options. But yeah, we can't score, so we're not going to be 0-0 all the way to the finals. Like, it ain't going to happen. So if they can't find a way to put the ball in the net, they're in big trouble for sure.
Yep, got to score. Got to score. All right, so let's shift our focus to some basketball. Making headlines this week, the Orlando Magic, they donated $50,000 directly to a super PAC, which supports Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' presidential bid, according to a new filing this week with federal regulators. The NBA PA came out today with a statement, and I quote here, the Magic's donation does not represent player support for the recipient. So they didn't even use the name of the recipient. So, JT, let me kick it off with you first. How do you think this will impact free agent signings with the Orlando Magic in the future?
Ooh, this is tricky, man. Well, one thing I do know now, I know how Jonathan Isaac was able to stay around in the Magic so long and not play a single damn game. Now, this makes absolute sense why he's still there. But this is very dangerous because out of all the teams to do this, because this is the first team to ever do something like this, in my knowledge, Orlando is one of those teams where this is unique. You got a black coach, young black team, and I think their GM is black. And it's in Orlando. Like, Orlando is thought of as a very liberal place. And the Orlando Magic are the biggest team here, period. And they do this, and especially what's going on with, like Florida passing all the education bills, suppressing Black history teaching and things like that. Like, the NBA is not the league that you want to take this on. And because the first thing I thought about when I heard this is like, did the Magic not learn anything from Donald Sterling? Like, the NBA players have the ability to get you gone. So they better hope that this does not go left any more than it already has, because Magic could be looking at new ownership if that's the case. But I do think it's going to be a problem. Like, guys are already coming out and saying, like, how could you do something like this and then make it public when the core of your team at all levels is Black? Like, that shows you have absolutely no care for the people that work with and for you. So you thought free agents weren't coming to Orlando already. They're definitely not coming now. You're definitely not going to get any coaching candidates. And, good luck getting a GM that wants to come here, that wants to attach their name to this madness that's going to ensue. Because the election is going to be coming up. This is only going to get louder. This story is only going to get more traction. So I don't know why Orlando would start this forest fire so early or at all, just to understand that it's only going to get more and more loud and more attention. So I do think it's going to be a problem for them at all three levels. And I kind of want to see the Magic burn for multiple reasons. This is very, very, very dumb move to make, but also it's time to get something new here that actually Orlando Magic fans deserve. And this might be the opportunity. Like, this could be their Clippers, Donald Sterling, moment where they move out under the thumb of something that's been terrible for so long and they get something new. So we'll see what happens.
Jerm, impact on free agency?
Probably from maybe not. I would say not an impact on free agency, because there's going to be players who are just chasing checks. But in terms of getting marquee talent, yeah, like some of the most of the marquee talent in the NBA are part-time activists in their own right. So what it does shed a light on, from based on what I see, right? Because the Orlando Magic have anti-DeSantis initiatives, right? They support Pride Night. They supported BLM.
It's Orlando, yeah. They
have to. They're playing it. But now here's the problem, because you put the Magic's name on it. Now it just kind of shows that stuff is just for PR. We don't really care. This is what we really care about. We care about DeSantis, who thinks slavery benefits Black people, and we actually don't care about gay people, and we don't care about this, and we don't care about that. So it does send a message to, I would say, marquee names. I mean, and it's fans, right? Like, there's a lot of Magic fans that are feeling this. Like, it's just giving them one more reason to root for the Miami Heat instead of the Orlando Magic. It was an interesting move. The fact that they did it under the team's name without, I'm assuming, consulting the team. And the fact that the NBA Players Association had to even come out and make a statement like that means that this caught everybody off guard. What the DeVos family was thinking, don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't just simply attach their name to it, because they wouldn't be the first.
This is par for the course for them. I mean, this is definitely something Bessie DeVos would do. Like, you forget,
right? Like, but that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be the first time an owner of a team went against what a majority of the makeup of their players stands for, right? Like, these guys, these rich people stick together. That's just the way it is. Maybe it's, hey, DeSantis, we think you have a good shot at being the candidate and coming from Florida. Maybe this is like, hey, we're looking out for you, trying to help you get to where you need to go. Remember the little guy when you make it to the top. Maybe it's a little bit of that, but a NBA team, or that they shouldn't have attached their NBA team, their business, to this donation. They should have just done it either quietly or as themselves, not attach the organization to it, because now the organization is going to feel it. And it's going to affect the bottom line, I think. So, yeah, it's going to affect free agency. It's going to affect fan support. It's going to affect a lot of things. They keep going like this.
In terms of the impact on free agency, I actually think, tell me who the last big name star or superstar Orlando's been able to sign. Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady. Right. So in terms of the impact, right, I'll get to what the Magic did in the next question. But in terms of this question and the impact, Jerm, you like, yes, they're not going to be able to bring in those marquee guys, but they haven't anyway. Like
Right.
they've always been bringing in those second, third, fourth tier free agents. The only way when you look at their roster, when they've had guys like Oladipo, Sabonis, and now Banchero, they've had to draft them. They haven't been able to bring in that key guy since Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady came in a package deal. And talk about Terrell Davis. That was about the same time, maybe 20 years ago, maybe not as long as Terrell Davis, but about 20 years ago.
Bro, y'all got to get up Terrell Davis, man.
In terms of the impact, this particular situation, I don't know how it will actually make anything different with the marquee free agents. It's still a no state income tax state, and they still can't lure the big superstars. So this may be, I guess, the way it impacts it. This is probably the nail in the coffin that the Orlando Magic will never get a marquee free agent. So the next thing I want to ask, JT, I'll start with you, is because you mentioned it with Donald Sterling in your first answer, is should the NBA step in the way they proceeded in the Donald Sterling situation after his tapes were released and what he said?
It's very tough because, I mean, technically nothing illegal is going on, but if I'm the NBA and
well, remember, I mean, did Donald Sterling do anything illegal though?
No, but that was more about optics that you just can't get around. Like the man said what he said on tape. It was, everybody could hear it. Like that ain't going away. Like this, I mean, people that own teams donate to people that we don't agree with all the time. It happens in every sport. They, like Jerm said, they just don't do it as the team. But if I'm Adam Silver, man, I'm thinking about it because I have worked so hard for everyone to call the NBA the progressive league. Like we're all right over here. Like we do everything on the right side of history and justice. And even though we know that's not true, because you got a bunch of rich owners that we know which way they typically lean, I think if I'm him, I want to get out ahead of this because one thing is, Florida is already its own thing. Like the crazy shit that's happening here, like that media attention you just don't want. But you just don't know what's ahead. If DeSantis is going to be on the presidential trail, what kind of crazy shit he's going to pull? Like, especially if he's going against somebody like Trump. Like, you don't know what kind of shit he's going to pull to win. So are you sure you want one of your franchises to be attached to that? Because anytime DeSantis does anything crazy from now on, they're going to talk about him. They're going to talk about the Orlando Magic. Like, it's not the same thing as Donald Sterling, but it could have the same impact and fallout as a Donald Sterling situation. And this is the NBA. Your players can get people gone really quick. Like LeBron, all these guys, they're not standing for this. So I think Adam Silver has built up enough goodwill that they will give him time to make a good decision. But if he doesn't, the pressure is going to get tighter and tighter. So I think it's in his best interest to act early and get this under wraps and make a decision. Whatever that decision is, he got to make it soon.
Jerm?
Yeah, I think in this instance, Adam Silver can do something about it. Don't attach a team to any political agendas, man. Like don't do that. Like again, he did this as the team donating money, not the family. So now Adam Silver has cause to say, hey, you can't do that, man. Like that's not what we do here. If you want to do stuff on your own dollar or your own dime or in your own name, go for it. But you will not attach, because the league has rules against this for players, right? The same thing goes for owners. Conduct detrimental, right? You can't make the league look bad. That's like the blanket term for anything that the league can do that may not be illegal or may not have a direct punishment or a direct cause. They just say, hey, it's conduct detrimental. You made the league cast in a negative light somehow. This counts as that. And so I don't, take away a draft pick. And there might be some type of the Magic are going to still be in the lottery next year. I guarantee you they're not going to get close to a top
pick from the Magic is actually a good thing for them. So I don't know if that actually is punishment for them.
But I'm saying, watch how many lotteries they get into now. Like, watch how the Magic ping pong balls don't all of a sudden end up in the Magic's favor, even though they have the best odds. The NBA is sly like that. They do little underhanded stuff. So we'll see.
So there's
you guys think you're getting brawny? You think you're getting brawny now?
Definitely not getting brawny now.
You ain't getting brawny now, boss. You done messed up.
So there's a couple things. First, Jerm, you're right. Business versus personal. Like, one, why did they put it under the business, right? They knew this was going to come out. So I'm really suspect about that. That's really shady there. It's like you wanted it to come out, like you're making a statement. And on top of that, then you try to double back and say, oh, well, the date on the check was May 19th. Ron DeSantis didn't officially nominate himself for the presidential race until May 24th. Well, if anyone knows anything, we knew what the lead up was. We knew that was coming if you had followed any sort of political realm leading up to that. All right. So don't tell me though the check was dated before he announced.
Oh, I was so shocked that he announced. I had no idea.
Exactly. And then on top of that, the super PAC is for his presidential race. They said at the time when they said about the dates that they contributed it to him as the governor of Florida in the governor things he was doing, not to get into what he's been or actually been lack of doing in Florida, but the super PAC is for the presidential part of Ron DeSantis, not the governor part of Florida. All right. So there's another thing you messed up on. I will say this, and part of it is on me as a fan. If you're an Orlando Magic fan and you don't agree with what they've done, the way to really hurt them instead of the NBA to come after them is to just stop going, stop buying their merchandise. And when they see the Amway Center, which Amway, right, also donates to a lot of Republican candidates because it's, I think, part of the DeVos business, is that they're going to realize what happened. No one's coming anymore. Well, that's the choice you made. And the choice of the fans is we're going to hurt you where it hurts, and that's in the pocket. Now, in terms of the NBA, should they step in? Well, there's a couple things. There's a great article that you should read by The Ringer, and it was done back in September of 2020. And it's really interesting. It's called "The Political Donations of NBA Owners Are Not So Progressive." And it goes through up until from like 2015 to 2020. It pulls the records of the donations by the individual owners. So again, that's the difference, right? It's by the individual owners and not the team. But if they step in here and do something, then it's like, well, let's see. Dan Gilbert, all right, $2.25 million in Republican donations to only $345,000 to Democratic donations. Dan DeVos, the Magic, personal, $4.854 million in donations to Republicans. Guess how much to Democrats?
$50.
Take a guess.
$50.
Zero.
What was zero?
Oh, see, I was close.
Zero. Jim Buss, all right, the Lakers owner, zero to the Democratic donations, only $8,700 to Republicans. But you get my point.
Well, to be honest with you, that list doesn't shock me because I mean these people are all very rich, so they're voting for what's going to keep their tax bracket making the most money. That makes sense. I understand that.
But it goes to JT's point. Who's the Clippers owner that took over for Sterling?
Steve Ballmer.
$10,000 to Republican donations. Democratic donations, almost $8 million.
Damn, Steve Ballmer's the GOAT, man. I know we don't got no soundboard, but if you can have like a clapping sound or something like that, damn, Ballmer. Go ahead. I was not expecting that.
Ballmer.
Go ahead, man.
So the thing is, JT's right. When you make those changes, you can change the league. And it's a player league, right? So you do need to cater to the players. There's no doubt. You need to cater to the players because one player can have a huge effect on a team in a championship. Look at Steph Curry. Look at LeBron James.
This is why LeBron James is the GOAT, because they have to make these decisions and think about these because LeBron James is the face of your league. Like that's why he's the GOAT. Like LeBron James is affecting the way people do business.
And all the superstars, really. Yeah. Now, I'll stop a little bit short to say if the league does intervene here, because it's not a direct action the way it was with Donald Sterling, and it wasn't a direct action the way it was with Robert Sarver with the Phoenix Suns. Mm-hmm. We all know those issues. This is a little bit more indirect. It's contributing to something that, the three of us wouldn't agree to. but they didn't come out and say it exactly, and it wasn't some physical action like we saw in the Phoenix Suns organization. So if you do want to go so far as to try to force a change of ownership, NBA's got to be ready for a legal battle, plus that slippery slope of where do we stop and what actions then could be considered removable as owner.
And I was thinking about that same exact thing when I was making my point. When you were talking, it's like that it creates a slippery slope because also it's like, what is considered a political action? Like, because I can see one of these guys being like, all right, cool. If I can't donate to Ron DeSantis, then you can't have Pride Night or something like they can say like, oh, like that's a political, thing you're putting out there. Like, I think that's where the NBA is going to be very careful because like all the progressive things that they've fought for to be open in their league, now these owners will come back and say like, you know what, well, that's political to me. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to remove all that stuff too?
Yeah, it can be a slippery slope.
I mean, and not for nothing, I will tell you, the Magic are owned by a notoriously like racist white family. Like this is not a shocking. The issue is that they did it under the Orlando Magic name, and the only person in that organization other than the DeVos family that's happier about this is Jonathan Isaac. So I mean, the NBA again, you attached the team to it. The team, like this is the organization. Once you do that, there is no turning back. Yes, the NBA can say, you know what? We don't care if you support this person, but you're not going to support a noted fascist like Ron DeSantis. They can pick and choose. They are a private company. The NBA is. They can pick and choose all they want. Yeah, we're not going to let you support this guy because he's bad for the NBA. His political agenda, his beliefs, the way he does business does not run congruent with how the NBA wants to be perceived. So no, Orlando, you can't give money to Ron DeSantis. But yeah, go ahead, Chicago Bulls. If you want to give money to Michelle and Barack Obama, that's cool. You know why? Because that makes the NBA look good. That in the world's eyes. So not a certain group of people. As unfair as you want to make that claim, that's just the reality. The NBA, the NFL, all these sports franchises are in the public relations business, not the sports business. Public relations is their number one objective because they need whoever the bulk of the money is coming from, that's who they need to make happy, right? We just saw this with Donald Trump. Donald Trump saw that this was the group of people. So he had to lean into it. Whether he believes in the stuff he was saying or not, he knew no matter what he did, right, JT? We were still going to think it was a scumbag. You know what I mean? He could have
worried about us.
He freed at last. He could have done it all, but it wouldn't have mattered because his perception of who he was. So we picked a side. The Magic are doing the same. This is who they know, and this is how they chose to express it. NBA can indeed tell the Orlando Magic, no, you cannot do this, and now we're going to fine you. And again, because you attach the Magic to it, only because you attach the Magic to it, you do this on your own time, that's fine.
Right.
Donald Sterling was perfectly fine until he got caught on tape. Again, he didn't do anything illegal, but you made the NBA look bad, dog. Now we have to take your team from you.
But we also all knew that about Donald Sterling too. It was just that it was never proved, or there was no actual.
It got too big that the NBA.
It got too big.
It got too big that the NBA could not ignore. Period. Exactly. Everybody knew he was a slumlord. Everybody knew it. That there's a difference. So now that it's all of a sudden the news cycle got to it, the fans got to it. Sorry, buddy. We know yet you've been running this slum business out there in LA, but we can't have it anymore. You got to go. And that's what happened.
All right. You got this. Go ahead, man.
It's your turn. What are you talking about?
Oh, damn. You're off schedule. All right.
How am I off schedule?
All right. So we'll run through these real quick.
Jerm,
so
this guy can't even follow the script now.
That's what we agreed to before the show, but whatever. But with Dr. J coming out with his top 10 all-time NBA players list, of course, here at JT and Don, we started thinking a little differently and wanted to come up, with the way to compare the careers of like specific players. So what we'll do is we'll give you guys two names and you will let us know who had the better career and briefly explain why. You guys got the rules down, Pat? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Don, right off the bat. No easy stuff. Tim Duncan versus Steph Curry.
That's a good one. I'm going Steph. He changed the game. No offense, he's more exciting than the big fundamental, and he's the all-time three-point leader. I mean, when you're the all-time three-point leader and you've changed the game, like you've had the better career, and then they each have their championships. People come out to watch Steph Curry in warm-ups, all right? Like pregame shoot-around, they come out to watch him, and he did it in an era with free agent super teams. Like Duncan missed that part. He got a little bit of it and lost to the Heat and beat the Heat in one, but he didn't get the full realm of it the way Curry's doing. And they've done it with homegrown core talent. So he's kind of bucked that trend besides the Kevin Durant.
Jerm, you agreeing with this man?
Yeah. I mean, Steph Curry, generational talent. Tim Duncan, obviously, also very great, all-time great. But I'll take the greatest shooter of all time. He has one less ring, but he's just a transcendent player. And Tim Duncan was just really good. There's a difference between the two. So yeah, I think Steph Curry.
Man, this is the shit I don't like. Y'all so disrespectful. Everybody loves the Flash, man. Are we forgetting Tim Duncan had 15 All-NBA and defensive NBA team selections? Like, and we want to talk about rings. Ray Allen making one of the clutchest shots of all time in playoff history keeps him from even getting in this NBA championship conversation with Steph Curry. But I'm sorry, we're talking about career here. It's close. Of course, I agree with you. Steph impacted the game, but man, come on, man. 15-time All-NBA and all defensive. Like,
but JT,
there's no more complete player than that. 3 times finals MVP, a 2-time MVP himself, man. And he was rookie of the year. He came into the league, busted out the gate, man. I got to go with Tim Duncan. It's close, but y'all wrong on this one.
When you change the game, like
quick.
when you change,
I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm picking Tim Duncan. I'm sorry.
Okay. You just doing it to
All
be
right.
different.
All right, next one. I didn't think this one would be this close, but Russell Westbrook versus Allen Iverson. Jerm, I want to go to you on this one.
Who said it was close? People thought it was close.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson had white kids in cornrows wearing sleeves in the film. I grew up in
tattoos.
in the fake tattoos, little white kids all in the Wachovia Center back when they called it the Wachovia Center. You want to talk about change the game? Allen Iverson forced the NBA to have a dress code, dog. Ain't nobody else doing that. Allen Iverson took Aaron McKee and Eric Snow to LA and won an NBA Finals game in LA. I don't want to hear about Russell Westbrook and his triple doubles. Allen Iverson, there is not one more influential player in the NBA's history than Allen Iverson.
Top
in
five
terms
influence.
Top five, and he ain't 2 through 5. He's number 1. Period. Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant himself said if Allen Iverson was 6'3" or 6'2", however the same height Kobe was, AI would be the greatest player of all time.
You know what, Jerm, I'm so glad you're making this point because this sounds eerily similar to a point that I was trying to make a few years ago, and I got destroyed on this point forever. Because I said Allen Iverson was more impactful culturally than Kobe Bryant, and y'all never let that go.
But this is better career. Allen Iverson again changed the game. His career was better. Allen Iverson, even by the one time he brought a poor Sixers team to the NBA Finals, is better than when Russell Westbrook went to the finals with his loaded OKC team. So, but even on top of that, it's just all the other extra stuff. Allen Iverson is perennially considered one of the greatest players of all time. Russell Westbrook's the greatest player, one of the greatest players of this generation. But if you're picking players, you're not picking Russell Westbrook over Allen Iverson. You're never, ever doing that.
All right. So Jerm said Allen Iverson is all-time great. He said Russell Westbrook is on the decade team at best. Don, Iverson or Westbrook? I know this is going to be tough for you. I'm interested to see what you got.
So, Jerm, the one part you are wrong on is that you don't think it's close. It is, man. Pull up the stats because it's a stat-based game a lot of times. No matter what sport you're looking at, you got to start with stats and then you get in more points. Russell Westbrook, more rebounds, more than almost tripled of what Allen Iverson has. Assists, 5,600 for AI, 9,100 for Russell. Steals, they're very close. AI has about 200 more. AI, 4-time scoring champ. Russell Westbrook, 2-time scoring champ. Each have an MVP. Westbrook did it, averaging a triple-double. So Don't be disrespectful to my guy Russell Westbrook and say it's not close. And you can say all you want about the change code. I've told this to JT. When us three are no longer on this earth, no one's going to remember 2 generations from now that Allen Iverson changed the dress code in the NBA. I'm sorry.
Yes, they will.
No,
yes,
they won't. They won't. I'm sorry. They won't.
They remember it now, and it was 30 years ago.
But that's because you and I keep bringing it up. No
exactly,
5-year-old.
Exactly. And there's always going to be, us.
No, we don't know the whole story about Will Chamberlain. We need documentaries on him.
We know enough.
Still don't know. See,
Don,
you're
Don, Allen Iverson still has one of the, in terms of high retired players, still has a high selling NBA jersey. Iverson he will live forever. Westbrook will be forgotten about when he retires. He will visit.
See, yes, but that's where you're wrong. You're starting to become that old guy, and you're discrediting.
He already there, man. yo, I'm not gonna lie. Jerm's nickname for me is he's Walt Kowalski, man. That's exactly who he is. That's exactly who he is. But hey, look. All right. So
at the end of the day, listen, I'm gonna go AI.
I knew this one was not gonna be quick.
I'm gonna go AI, and the reason is exactly.
Oh, all that you didn't pick Westbrook.
Let me explain why.
I'm going. No, hell no. You done. You done. The answer is Iverson for everything that Jerm said. Cultural impact.
And let me finish my answer.
And Russ.
Let me finish my answer. I'm not gonna let you talk.
Paul George, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James. That's exactly why that Iverson gets it. No, you made all these points about how Russell Westbrook is close just for you to pick Allen Iverson. We going on to the next one. We ain't got time for this.
Okay, good. They couldn't hear your answer either. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Anyway, next one. Chris Paul or Darren Williams?
So I'm glad that Don actually, the part that we did get to hear is that he said you have to look at stats. Darren Williams played Chris Paul 8 times in his career. How many times did Darren Williams win?
Probably.
The answer is 7. Beat his ass. Scoring, let's see, let me look. 20% better field goal percentage than Chris Paul. He's a better shooter than Chris Paul. He's bigger than Chris Paul. He's more efficient than Chris Paul. So, again, Darren Williams is a better player. You're going to ask me who had the better career. Only based on longevity will I say Chris Paul. But this is not me saying that I think Chris Paul is better than Darren Williams. Darren Williams injured.
No, because this is that's why I put this one in here. This is a legitimate argument. Like, they are forever tied to each other when people do comparisons. And like, you ask guys that play in the league, like Darren Williams is one of the most talented, hardest guys to defend. Like, we're talking career, and
he
said Chris Paul.
If you look at, but he's trying to make it close, which this one is not close. He doesn't want to admit Russell Westbrook's in the same class as AI.
No, you don't even think Russell Westbrook's in the same category. You didn't pick him.
Now he says CP3 ain't even in Darren Williams. Listen, Darren Williams, go back and look at the stats, Jerm, of the last 5 years of Darren Williams.
To his career.
Last 5 years were brutal for Darren Williams.
Injuries.
I mean, come on. Like CP3, you don't think they're going to remember him? Over 11,500 assists, and he's still playing at a pretty good level.
That's why he had a better career, but I think Darren Williams was a better player.
But anyone can be a better player for a short period of time. It doesn't just, okay, maybe you say skill-wise because he's taller, but Chris Paul's the better NBA player. Let's face it. Better NBA player.
Is Chris Paul a better NBA player now, or is he better when Darren Williams is playing?
That's the great point.
That's close. That's
exactly.
Really close.
And that's my point of why CP3 is so good. He hasn't digressed. He hasn't regressed.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna argue with it. It's Chris Paul. The only stat I'm gonna give y'all is career win share 205 to 77. CP3 over Darren Williams. But yeah, I agree. Darren Williams was nice when Chris Paul played, and I think he was more talented. This one is interesting though. Tracy McGrady or Carmelo Anthony?
Jerm, I'm going to go first because T-Mac's my guy. I'll be full disclosure. T-Mac, my guy, had the jersey, had the sweatshirt. T-Mac drove up to Cleveland just to watch T-Mac when he came into town. It's
Hey, bro,
T-Mac.
you did a Netflix 30 for 30, man. You doing a whole lot of shit that I didn't know you did growing up. Hey, I ain't gonna lie, Jerm, you talked about Allen Iverson had a cultural impact. I'm not so sure this dude didn't have the fake tattoos with the sleeve and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think you might have had that.
I wish I could shoot like T-Mac. Listen,
Hey.
it's T-Mac. And actually, when I sat down and tried to be objective with this, I really came out and said it's T-Mac. When you look at the stats, all right, in 19 years compared to 14 or to 15 of T-Mac, in this time with injuries, I'm gonna give T-Mac a little bit of benefit of a doubt. All-Star games, 10-7 in favor of Carmelo. But this is the big one is all NBA teams, 7 for T-Mac, 2-time scoring champ, 32 points a game. Only one scoring title for Carmelo, 28.7. That's not a scoring title nowadays. That's not score. You can't score 28.7 and win the title. That don't even count. So take that off. The only difference is really the points, and that's just because Carmelo played longer. But you look at assists, believe it or not, T-Mac.
No, we can't look at assists with Carmelo. We can just look at points. That's it.
Exactly. T-Mac, 700 more assists, played 4 less years. It's completely him. In his prime, 2000 to 2007, he was the best pure scorer in the game. That's T-Mac. He was the KD before KD existed.
So literally the argument you just gave me about 3 minutes ago about longevity, then I'm going to use the same.
Is that 3 minutes ago?
It's 4 years, bro. It's 4 years.
It was only the Darren Williams played 15 years in the league, and this is what?
But I said
what you call it? 19.
No, but I said the last 5 years were brutal. That's a big difference.
I mean, but you said longevity, so Carmelo
like
played longer.
T-Mac. Who you
But
got?
that's not the only thing. Come on.
I'm going with Carmelo only because Don tried to shit on me. So about longevity.
All right, now I get the real Jerm. Now it comes out. Now it comes out.
I'm a biggest Melo hater in the world. I talk shit about Melo all the time. It's just T-Mac's peak was better than Melo's. I do believe the same thing. I do believe T-Mac at the height of their powers is a better player, but this isn't the question. The question is who had a better career. This is a versus battle. Unfortunately, Melo has the longevity. He has the all-team accolades. He has the stats that matter. And if you're talking about career objectively, I would say Melo had a better career as a solo star, right? T-Mac had way more help in his good years than Melo had, right? Melo had a bunch of old guys. You got Allen Iverson at an advanced age. Well, who was Melo's best teammate? Kenneth Faried, you know what I mean? An aging Amari Stoudemire. Like it just, Jeremy Lin. It just, he didn't have.
You could say the same for T-Mac. The running joke is that
Prime Vince Carter.
Prime Vince Carter.
Yeah,
T-Mac was a young guy. He got out of there after his first contract.
He still had him.
So I got to be the tiebreaker on this.
Yeah.
Don, I'm sorry. It's close though. I gotta go with.
It is close.
Because I this was a tiebreaker for me. Carmelo had more playoff appearances, and he had better field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and he had a 10-point higher win share. Like, I love T-Mac too. I feel like if anybody's career is affected by injuries, as far as where we place them all time, is T-Mac. Because, like you said, I think he was more special than KD was before KD. Because KD ain't as physical as T-Mac was. Like, when I seen T-Mac dunk on Sean Bradley, I was like, oh my God. Like, the TV almost exploded. I'd never seen anything like that. So
if T-Mac did get injured,
Carmelo playing longer and being better in certain statistical categories gives him the edge, in my opinion.
If it wasn't for injuries, we would be talking about T-Mac like we talk about Kobe. I believe that in my heart.
I respect that. I like that. All right. So, hey, let's stick with the NBA and let's continue along the line, the theme of careers, but the opposite of a legendary career now. So let's play the what if game. We haven't done this on JT and the Dawn. So first one, I'll start with you, Jerm. What is the biggest what if career in NBA history?
So what do you mean by career? Because if you talk about, I'm thinking like things that alter the history of the NBA, and the one I could think about, there's a couple. There's
you can run. You can run.
However you wanted to.
You can run with that.
Because if you're talking about player, then it's probably D Rose or something like that, or Len Bias not dying, right? But when I looked at this question, I thought, man, if the Detroit Pistons would have selected Dwayne Wade, that would have changed not just his career, Chris Bosh's career, and LeBron James's career. It would have changed a lot of things in the NBA over history.
In the Miami Heat.
And the Miami Heat organization. And the Detroit Pistons, that could have been a dynasty. Yeah. I don't think so. When I go back and look at that Pistons team that had just, they were going to win the title coming in 2004. So if they draft in 2003, chances are Dwayne Wade wouldn't have started, but he would have learned behind some of the greatest basketball minds and the greatest, most well-coached NBA team in modern history, because that Detroit Pistons team, when you look at the roster, was not supposed to win a title. But they were so well coached. Those pieces fit so together. And now in hindsight, because now we're all older and they're older, just what special basketball minds were actually in that locker room to have Dwayne Wade be molded by that. And then he could have sat on that bench and became a sixth man and then ascended as Chauncey Billups and Tyshawn Prince and these guys and Rip Hamilton kind of moved on in their careers, much like Tim Duncan ascended into that leadership role with San Antonio. I envision that for Dwayne Wade. And then if Dwayne Wade was there, that means, maybe Bosh wasn't going to get drafted by the Raptors. Maybe, and then LeBron and Bosh wouldn't have joined Dwayne Wade in Miami. And so I can't look at Dwayne Wade's talent and not think he would have turned into, maybe not as echelon, because he basically molded that Heat franchise as a young kid by himself. But I still think he would have ended up as a Hall of Fame top tier player. Just it would have been different, and maybe he would have gotten more titles out of it. But I think about just all of the tentacles that draft pick or misdraft pick affected in our modern NBA history, because I just the way that draft class just shook out at the top.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. That
is interesting.
So many different ways. JT, what do you got?
So I like that he looked at it that way. That was like the whole butterfly effect. So I looked at it as more of like, I did it simple. It's like injuries / like history, career altering, stuff like that. And I mean, you could put a lot of guys on this list when it comes to that. But you know what was interesting that stuck out to me, and I'll give you my answer. My answer to me is Magic Johnson, and I'll tell you why. Like, you just look at when he retired, when he was only 32 years old. His last season, he averaged 19, 12 assists per game, 7 rebounds. I think he came off an MVP season. And just think about it this way. Imagine if Magic Johnson had never got HIV and he played for the next 6 to 8 years at that level. Like, how much more would he have accomplished? Like, he probably would have more rings than Michael Jordan. He probably would have more all-star appearances. And he probably would have more all-NBAs, because they were close at that time, like when he had stopped playing. And I think he possibly could catch Michael Jordan in MVPs with 5. Like, if Magic Johnson never had to retire, like, there's a strong possibility that we're talking about him as the best player of all time, and maybe not Michael Jordan. And when you talk about like historical significance of, an injury or a situation altering history, I think you got to look at somebody like Magic Johnson, man. Like, he was still in his prime and he could easily have played for another decade. Think about everything that he could have accomplished in that time frame, looking at the last season that he played and where he was as far as the skill level. So that's who I picked.
That's a good one. That's actually a good one that I think some people forget, because he had such a good career up until then and had already played like 12 years. I'm going to go with a guy that Jerm actually mentioned. It's Len Bias. To me, that's number one, because it wasn't even an injury. We never even got a chance to see this guy. And this is the thing. He was drafted in 1986. And we know the tragic story by now, unfortunately. But it's not only like a what if of how good of a player he could have been, but you hear all the good things he was as a person. So we don't know what kind of impact off the court he could have had too. But then looking at his career, the Celtics were able to get this guy like number 2 or something overall. And they then lose in the 87 finals, I think, to the Lakers in 6 games. Like, can you imagine? You talk about D Wade stepping in for Detroit Pistons and carrying that torch. Len Bias was the next one up for the Celtics, right? Went from like Russell, they had a little down point, to then Bird. It was going to transition to this guy. This guy was like, he was like the next Michael Jordan, essentially. He was the guy that could compete with Michael Jordan. And I mean, how many records could he have had? We don't know. How many more rings could Bird have had? Maybe bias helps them in the 87 finals. And now he's got more rings than Magic. Like, and maybe that doesn't transition so well for the Lakers into the 90s and the 2000s because Len Bias is with the Celtics. Now teams, guys, superstars like Kobe rather play for Boston than the Lakers. I'm not saying Kobe in particular, but maybe Shaq goes to Boston instead of LA. But I just think it's him because of the comparison, with MJ and then just the impact on the Celtics organization. It wasn't like he was going to the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? He was going to the Celtics organization. And he was going to be good. They were going to make him good. He was going to be good. He was going to play with Larry Bird. So I think to me, it's just no doubt that it's him because talk about the tentacle effect. Maybe MJ gets one ring. Maybe he can't even get out of the East. He loses to the Pistons and he's still got to deal with Len Bias in the Celtics. Because we forget, like, the Celtics were still making the playoffs in the early 90s. Even though Bird and McHale were older, they were still making the playoffs. So, all right, let's go to the NFL history. The biggest what if in NFL history. Jerm?
So, again, I approached this one like I did with the NBA, and this one actually was really easy for me. The biggest what if for me in the NFL is if the Dolphins medical staff doesn't fail Drew Brees. Because if he remains a Dolphin, the Dolphins would have been better, correct? Who was coaching the Dolphins when Drew Brees was drafted? Nick Saban. So if the Dolphins were better, Nick Saban maybe doesn't run to college and go to Alabama. And if he never does, then the Crimson Tide wouldn't be the college superpower they are. So all those college players, those great college players that came from Alabama when Saban was there, their draft stock would have changed. Everything would have been different. The players that we have may not have ever went there. They may have went to different colleges, but it altered everybody's career. Nick Saban's possibly, delaying him going to college for at least another year at bare minimum, or Drew Brees, who maybe doesn't become, the Drew Brees that we all know for New Orleans, but the guy had talent. I mean, that would have helped the Dolphins tremendously to have somebody like Drew Brees as their quarterback. So when I think about the what ifs, I think about how the Dolphins messed up in passing on Drew Brees.
Jerm coming up with some good ones. He's trying to change NBA and NFL history, man.
I know, man. Damn.
JT, what do you got?
Oh man, there's so many ways you can go with this. I didn't want to pick, like a top one. I felt somebody on this panel would probably pick, but the one that stood out to me is because I think people forget how dominant this guy was. It's Priest Holmes. Like, you forget that 3-year stretch he had. He averaged 1,500 yards rushing and 19 touchdowns for 3 straight years. And then the 4th year when he got hurt, I think he played 8 games. He almost had 1,000 yards and had 14 touchdowns in the 8 games then. He was only 31. Like, can you imagine if he played another 3 or 4 years in that system and he was healthy? Obviously the neck injury ended his career a couple years later, but I mean, really, he wasn't the same after that 4th year. He got hurt with the ankle and the neck injury. But you want to talk about a guy playing in a perfect system, and I feel like he really wasn't getting hit like that. It was just a match made in heaven, and you saw it on the field. The numbers that this dude was putting up in that 3-year stretch was crazy. And it wasn't like a Derrick Henry type vibe where it's we're just running him into the ground. He's hitting everybody. This dude was beating people in space, breaking long touchdowns, but to average 1,500 yards rushing and almost 20 touchdowns for 3 straight years and be on pace to break that in year 4, and you only 31, I gotta think, where would he have been if he would have played 4 or 5 more years with the Chiefs? Where are we talking about Priest Holmes, amongst the all-time great running backs? Because we talked about Terrell Davis on this show. We talk about all the time, he was dominant for a short stretch. He wasn't this dominant. You want to talk about being dominant without rings? Priest Holmes is at the top when it comes to players like that. So that's the person I went to.
I'm going to go running back as well, but I'm going to go with the man, Bo Jackson. He played only 4 seasons in the NFL. He averaged 73.2 yards a game, which doesn't sound great, but that's actually unbelievable. But it's actually unbelievable when you're splitting carries with Hall of Famer Marcus Allen. So can you imagine that? I mean, there wasn't enough time or possessions or snaps for the two of them, but still 73.2 yards a game. Had he kept that average and played in, 3 times more games, because he was only playing about 10 games a year in those 4 seasons because of baseball. So had he played just a total of 3 times more of those games, which is essentially, he played in maybe like 40 games or so. So had he played closer to like 90 or 100, he ends up with 8,000 yards. He's a top 45 running back all time in terms of stats. And he was still splitting it with baseball. So I think his legendary status would have kept growing, because had he done that 4 more years, 5 more years, 6 more years playing both sports, what he was doing every day, baseball wise and football, was amazing. You were watching the TV.
That helped Deion's legacy too. And Deion was not that good at baseball as Bo Jackson was.
Well, see, but that's true. Not as good as Bo, but Deion was still better.
Yeah, Deion was good. He wasn't Bo Jackson. You're right.
He wasn't Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson's making all-star games, and he's crushing the ball. So
and he's also throwing you out.
I mean, we missed out on things that we could have seen. Think of the things we just saw with Bo running into the tunnel in Seattle, running over Boz at the goal line. We missed out on years of the amazing plays he could do, not only in baseball, but in particular football. So I went Bo Jackson on that.
Yeah, Scott agrees with you. Said, what if Bo Jackson doesn't get hurt? 2 leagues impacted.
There you go. He read my mind. Or
that's your burner account, whichever one.
No, I didn't. It is.
Right.
That's my guy, Scotty. Thanks again for watching and commenting. Before we go, we got to throw in a surprise, JT. Haven't done this in a while. 2 quick ones. Jerm, you can play in on the first one. The second one, the question doesn't apply to you, but you could play on the first one.
Cool.
Lionel Messi gifted pink and black Beats by Dre to teammates. I guess as a welcome gift for them, even though he was the guy.
That's the best he can do.
So I was going to ask, JT, I'll start with you. Do you approve, and what would your gift have been if you were top 2, top 3 greatest?
If I'm Messi, I got buddy. This is like the Carson Wentz gifted everybody like hunting rifles. Like, I don't hunt. Like, I hate when people give gifts they would give themselves. Like, no, I mean, I probably would. I'll out of the room. I would get the best gift that I could afford that I only could use. So I don't know. Okay. Whatever that is, but Beats, I could give the team Beats.
Jerm, do you approve of the gift, and what would you give?
I mean, yeah, a gift's a gift. That's fine. I guess I approve it because maybe the team likes. I mean, he's probably sponsored. He probably didn't pay for them.
Team
colors,
that's
literally the worst headphone you can give somebody.
Messi don't got to get them nothing. They got to get Messi something. Did you see that game? Did you see who showed up? When's the last time LeBron showed up to an Inter Miami game? When's the last time that Kim Kardashian was there?
Bro,
Enough.
It's
that
crazy,
team.
man.
That team should give him all the beats. Not the other one. The gift to Inter Miami is Lionel Messi. That's the gift. I am the gift. And you're welcome for getting national coverage, breaking Apple TV streaming records. You're welcome for filling up that arena that probably hasn't seen more than 5,000 people in it since you guys have been around. I sold that out. So I am the gift for you. You guys get to be on TV and people get to know your names because of me. That's the gift. So yeah, I approve the gift giving. Good for Messi. Nice on you. That's cool. But in reality, it's a good gesture. But in reality, I'm the gift. So you're welcome.
All right. Now we know how I feel when he comes on the show. Jerm is the gift.
He's like, I am the gift.
That's why he's in the
middle. No, that's not fair. Don't do that. I said I didn't want to be in the middle.
We understand it. It just needed to be said. We got you. All right. Last one, only for JT. Sorry, you'll understand why, Jerm, when I ask this. So JT, believe it or not, last night went to a great game in Orlando, Juventus, Real Madrid. Great game. My Juventus team came out on top. Favorite part of the game, JT? What was it?
So many things. First of all, shout out to our friend of the show, Corey Gibbs, for hooking us up with the tickets. And shout out to Mama McKinney. We got to sit next to her and talk to her and meet her. So
Weston played a great game. Shout out
he did. His mom's is Team McKinney for real, man. You gotta love that, man. But yeah, she was great to meet. Got to sit next to the family. But honestly, the best part of the game to me was just the atmosphere. Because I've been to MLS games before, and like I thought that was cool, but like seeing like a league game like this, and it was a friendly, so it really doesn't even count. So to see that here, just that atmosphere, and see how many fans are just so passionate about it was crazy. Like just to see people that definitely didn't have tickets in that section, don't sit in their seats, come down and crowd everywhere around you to stand up just to see. Like I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before at a sporting event. Like these people paid for like 300 level, and they're like, you know what, forget about it. We're gonna go down to 100 level, stand by the beer person, and we're gonna form a brigade. Like it was crazy.
But the atmosphere looked great on television. It felt like a late summer baseball game where guys are chasing records and stuff. It just had that feel, even on television. More Juventus or Real Madrid fans were there, you think? Because I'm a big Juventus guy, and it sounded like at the end they were chanting for Juventus. So
well, I didn't get to stay to the end, but where we were sitting, it seems like it was a lot of Juventus fans.
Okay, good. All right, so what were you gonna say? Last word on the show.
Coolest thing though, I hadn't seen this shit in years. They did the wave, and they were for real with it.
That's so American. That's so
like they started the wave, and I was like,
that's
people
so
still do this? No, like they did the wave, man. I was like, all right, man, that's how you know it's for real here. They doing the wave. But yeah, excellent experience in the game. But getting there, oh man, I gotta find a better way to get there, man. In traffic for an hour and a half just to park in somebody's lawn, but I got lucky. But yeah, it was crazy to get there, but atmosphere was worth it for sure.
That's always been the problem at the Citrus Bowl, though, right? That's always been the problem.
But this was worse though.
I can imagine. I mean, it was sold out.
Like people were parking so far, like they were taking the 25, 30-minute walk to the stadium. Like it was crazy.
Wow. Diehard
in the summer in Florida.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. Jerm, quick shout out to your show, where they can find you exactly.
Yeah, stuff about sports here on the Give Us a Shot Network, www.giveusashot.network. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We have streamlined all the podcasts, so you can find JT and the Don, Stuff About Sports, Divide, High Spot, and Go Talk with Marcus, and the new podcast, Protect Our Queens, all in one spot. Just search the Give Us a Shot Network and subscribe to the Give Us a Shot Network YouTube page.
Nice. And Jerm, thank you again for coming on. Appreciate your time. Sorry it went a little bit late, but we're going to have you back on.
Y'all just had to argue about Russell Westbrook, but okay.
To all the fans and listeners out there, thank you again. A lot of fun. And remember to please subscribe to us, JT and the Don All Sports Podcast. You can find us on all of the major platforms. And remember, if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. And JT,
if you don't like Russell Westbrook,
definitely leave us a 5-star review. And remember to find us on social media. Our handle at JT and the Don. We can be found on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. So again, thank you to Jerm and JT. Great episode, man. A lot of fun. And until the next episode, see ya.
Peace.